Hi, and welcome to Cannabis Equipment News. I'm David Manti, and with me today is Geoff Todosiev and Michelle Armstrong, the President and Account Manager of Interchim. Thank you very much for joining me today, guys.
Thanks for having us.
All right, Geoff, let's start a little bit about Interchim. Could you tell me a little bit about the company?
Yeah, so Interchim is a well-established business founded back in 1970 by a former research director at Rhone-Poulenc, which is now Sanofi Aventis, big pharmaceutical company. And over the years, we developed various product lines. In the 80s, it was chromatography. And then throughout that, through the 90s, we expanded into larger scale preparative liquid chromatography. And then in the 2000s, we developed an instrument program, and that's what we have are currently supported in the cannabis market, and that is equipment for purification of various cannabinoids, and we have several applications to support that. Back in a little over a year ago, we have a combined force with a strategic detector manufacturer called Advion. So they manufacture mass spectrometers, which we integrate with our equipment. So now we're a combined entity, and that really has helped us to take our capabilities to the next level. We have better depth and support and personnel to support the applications that we have in the field.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the specific instruments that you have. First of all, I'm curious about when, is it primarily extractors that are coming to you guys, or is it extractors and cultivators? And at what point of the process do they come to you guys looking for support?
Okay, good question. So it is, actually, Michelle, why don't you take this one?
No worries. So it's basically for people who, after they do their, so basically processors and manufacturers are our main clientele. So people who, after they've done their extraction, they do a distillation, and then after distillation, we're basically the final step. They would take their distillate, third pass distillate, and put it on our system, and then you can do the matter cannabinoids, you can do THC remediation, or you can do the pesticide remediation. And then there's a different way of for pesticide remediation. It does not have to be distillate, but yeah. So it would just be the manufacturers and the processors that would best utilize our equipment.
Okay. One of the things I was curious about, I know that you guys have a lot of solutions, but one was the pesticide remediation. Just because a couple of the people that I've talked to in the industry, there's really no standardization. So tell me a little bit about how pesticide remediation kind of fits into the equation. Who's using it and how are they using it? And shouldn't everybody be using that?
So I'll take that one. So pesticide remediation, that was one of the first applications that we introduced in the market. Interchim North America, we're based in Southern California. So we started working with cannabis in about 5.5 years ago, just to start developing applications. And of course, that was in the recreational market where pesticides are regulated. And for that application, you can either use crude or a crude extract or a distilled product. And the application is such that you can run your crude or your distillate through the process, and the output will be pesticide free. We've got several solutions for that. We have a very high speed solution, takes about 20-25 minutes. And then we have others that may take an hour, but you're still getting the same end result.
Okay.
Because there are so many pesticides, we don't have a single application. There are several depending on what group of pesticides you're working with.
Okay. Is this something that you're seeing sort of universal interest in from the industry, or is it still sort of like, are people still like experimental with like benchtop solutions, or are they looking for like full scale solutions for their operation?
We're seeing both. Yeah. Full scale, process scale, because, and quite frankly, it's really in the recreational market, because there you have regulations. You have to be certified pesticide free, whereas in the CBD market, you tend to be self-regulated. So we do expect more of that interest to be coming on, and we are seeing that more and more. But traditionally, it's been in the recreational market.
Okay. How do people find you? Typically, is it from summits like how I found you guys through the NCIA summit this year? How do you go to market?
Well, it depends what year. This year versus last year. Last year, we basically went to all the different conferences that were out there, from, Vegas, from MJ BizCon to Seed to Sale, all the different, local and national meetings. So we did, that. And then also just, word of mouth is pretty big. And, there's social media as well. And then this year it's been, mostly social media and the virtual conferences. And again, word of mouth. So yeah, this year is a little more challenging.
Of all the instruments that you offer the industry, what proves to be the most popular?
Well, last year it was the 5015, which is the larger industrial scale system for THC remediation. This year we're seeing a lot more of the minor cannabinoid purification. So with that one, you want to start small. So our 420 system, which is a smaller benchtop unit. You can do small and large scale on that one. You can start there. And then when you have the methodology for the minors, you can scale up to the 5015, which is the 20 centimeter column.
How has COVID-19 and the coronavirus pandemic affected your business in terms of the solutions that people are looking for, as well as the investment capital that people have on hand?
Yeah, I'll take that one. So COVID has had an impact without a doubt. And, especially when, it's an emerging market already, right? I mean, whether it's the recreational side or the CB side of the market. So you have an emerging market. So you've got a lot of external investment, and investors tend to be a little cautious when times are tough. So we've seen a lot of, what were to have been larger scale installations scaled back into something more conservative and smaller, so they can, really determine the proof of concept before they commit to something much larger. I think that's probably been the biggest impact that we've seen. And, thankfully we do have, entry level, small scale benchtop systems so that they can achieve those goals.
How does that work for clients that want to start with something sort of small, proof of concept, and then scale up? Do you have a program for people like that, or does the benchtop, or the small one wind up just kind of off in the corner?
No, you can still do production.
Yeah, go ahead, Michelle.
Yeah, so you can still do production on the small scale system as well. So it's going to be a matter of throughput. So the small one can still put out a decent amount of throughput. So you would just basically have, a little, like for that, your backup.
Using both. Oh, gotcha.
Absolutely. Yeah, you just get higher throughput. So you can't go wrong with that.
Right. So,
and then the other thing about the small system is that you'll always have a need for that, whether it be for R&D purposes or for troubleshooting. So having that small system and a redundant manufacturing capability is actually quite helpful.
Starting with the 420 system, what kind of ROI can people expect with that machine?
It's pretty fast,
Yep.
So the small system, let's talk THC remediation. Okay. So your output per day is over 3 kilos. Mm-hmm. That's a 24-hour day. For pesticide remediation, that throughput is actually much higher. It's about 10 times higher. So the ROI on that is, on these smaller systems can be a month or even a matter of weeks.
Okay. How do you work with people that are interested initially, just to kind of vet out, for lack of a better term, like sort of tire kickers or people that aren't going to use the instrument appropriately, versus people that, are kind of ready to run with what you guys have to offer?
We usually do so we have, type of phone conversations before, just kind of get like a background of what they've been working on and everything like that. So you can usually get a good gist of, the person from, just screening, different phone calls and, and just kind of see what their background is, and which is usually very helpful for sure. Like a lot of people have a science background, which is helpful, not necessarily, not necessary, but we have such a turnkey process that for remediation, at least. So it's, it really is pretty simple to use and user friendly. So, we can go for a broad range of client-based people. So as long as they're willing to, do and basically see if they have in-house analytical, which is also very helpful in the whole process. And if they're doing their own extraction. So it's just asking the right questions.
Okay. And I assume that sort of leads to what sort of like training and ramp up is going to be required.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So that, as we go through the process to understand their capabilities and their goals in terms of, where do they want to be in production a month from now, 6 months from now, or a year from now. It's really important for us to know that so that we can tailor the offering to their needs. And then usually when we're providing the finalized pricing and quote, we also advise what they need on site in order to be successful with the installation and training. And we have complete SOPs for that so that they can be successful when we are on site to do the installation and training.
Okay. So, after the election and as 5 new states legalize, how do you guys prepare internally and then plan to go to market in those disparate states?
Why don't you take that, Michelle?
It's just basically catering to that market. So with a lot of those states, they're just getting up and running. So it's a lot of them are actually looking for basically everything. So they're starting from scratch. So the good thing is that we have an HPLC system to go along with the flash systems that we have, or the minor cannabinoid purification remediation systems. So what we can do is basically, so you want in-house analytical is super helpful, especially if you're doing R&D. So that way we can help bundle the HPLC with the system. So that way it just basically helps them know what is needed to help them in their process.
So you're mentioning, is it 4 specific product lines, the THC remediation, the HPLC, the pesticide remediation, and what was the other one? Dewaxing?
Dewaxing, yeah.
Could you talk about each of those individually, what they offer, and why people need them?
Okay. Yeah, I'll take that. So the 2 most popular for us right now are the THC and pesticide remediation. So these, basically it's a chromatography system, which consists of a pump, a high performance pump, it's a liquid chromatography pump, a detector, and then various collection modes, because we need to separate the output, which is THC free versus THC contaminated, or pesticide free or pesticide contaminated. So, and our software and the SOPs that we support the software with allow you to do that. So we have all the methods that allow you to achieve those. So those are available as a benchtop as well as a larger scale process scale system.
Okay.
So there's basically 2 that we offer there. One that's a smaller benchtop, that's the 420 that Michelle referred to, and then there's the 5015. So the 5015 has about 5 times the throughput of the smaller system. And the other 2 applications are minor cannabinoid purification and dewaxing. So again, same systems, just different applications. For minor cannabinoid purification, we're working on applications for Delta 8, Delta 9 separation, as well as CBC, CBN, CBG, and others as they come into popularity. And then finally, the dewaxing application, once again, same system, smaller and larger. And then that allows you to use the system to remove the wax from the crude extract. And the output of that looks very similar to distillate. And it has very similar properties where your total cannabinoid content is going to be about 80%. This is, again, looking at the recreational market, so a high THC product. And then the yields on that are actually comparable to distillate. The big difference, though, is that this is all run at ambient temperature. You don't have to go out and invest in a bunch of cryoethanol systems. And it's also quite fast. It's done in a matter of minutes. So that's really attractive, especially for these new markets where, and smaller markets, quite frankly. Some of the states that just legalized they're not the size of California or Colorado. So these are smaller states, smaller demand. So maybe some of the smaller systems would be more beneficial for those populations.
You had alluded to some of the benefits versus some of the other competitive products on the market. What are some of the other things that sort of set you guys apart from other solutions that are available?
I would say it's support. Okay, so our competitors will sell you a liquid chromatography instrument, but they won't necessarily provide you with the SOP to achieve the various applications. And it's not as simple as just taking your distillate and feeding it to the system. There is some sample preparation techniques that are required in order to be sure that you'll have a successful run. And these are techniques that we have learned and we continue to refine so that you can get as much lifetime out of the media in the column. The column is packed with media, and over time it loses its performance and you have to repack that column. So if we can extend the media life, that's better for you. It improves your ROI and gives you higher margins.
Are these all patented technologies?
Unfortunately, no.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's a really good question, because essentially what we've done, we've taken all of our expertise that we've developed over the years in pharmaceutical R&D, and now we're applying that to cannabis. So same goal, and that is to produce a pure product. It's just that the feedstock are different. Instead of an organic synthesis, we've got a natural product.
So in the overall portfolio of your company, sort of where does cannabis fit? Like how big of a part of your business is it?
It's 2019, it was a significant portion of the U.S. business. We did a lot more in cannabis than we did in big pharma in 2019. 2020, the same, but just a lower sales volume. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's significant. As a matter of fact, we have a 3-year strategic plan that we're rolling out in early January to focus exclusively on cannabis as a corporate entity. So that's a global initiative that we plan to support with new applications, additional support personnel, and really to look at the emerging markets, whether those be in Latin America or Asia.
Okay. Why'd you guys make that decision?
It's really the success. It's based on the success that we've had already. We've been very successful with the applications that we've brought to market. We've established a following in the market. We have a good reputation. We want to continue to develop that, and it just makes good sense. And certainly with the legalization that may be looming here on a federal level in the United States, and certainly elsewhere in Europe and in Asia. So it just seems that there will be continued growth in the market.
You mentioned your relationship with your customers. How much of your business is word of mouth?
Michelle, why don't you take that?
Sure. I would say I don't know. It would probably be around, I'd say like 40%. I mean, it's a good amount. It really is. This year more than last year, but yeah, it's definitely, and it's even though it kind of like the pharmaceutical industry, it's a very small but community actually. It's a big country, but it's a very close-knit community. I'm seeing that especially on LinkedIn used to be mostly for pharma, and now I'm seeing now we're using it more for the cannabis and hemp industry. It's everyone's kind of connected to everyone, so it's kind of nice in that way.
And that's we reach beyond cannabis manufacturing. We have interest in like food manufacturing, the pharmaceutical processing, stuff like that. But that's one of the things I love about this industry also, is that when two people in this industry, even competitors, are talking to one another, they'll just say, oh no, you're using them. You're doing it wrong. You got to do it like this. And it's incredible to me. Like, could you talk, do you have any experience seeing that firsthand?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's really refreshing. Michelle and I have been going to conferences, supporting the pharma community for many years, over 10 years. And the dialogue that you have at a chemistry conference versus a cannabis conference, it's night and day. There's, a much more free exchange of ideas that you have in a cannabis interaction than you would in the pharmaceutical community. So it's, we miss those conferences, quite frankly.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I've noticed the same thing on LinkedIn regarding in terms of like community building. Are there any other platforms that you use in terms of sort of maintaining that dialogue with the community and your customers?
Yeah, I also have an Instagram page as well. Okay. So, but the majority is LinkedIn. But yeah, also Instagram and yeah, I think that's about it. Yeah, I probably should get more tech savvy, but yes.
Okay, no worries. I was just curious. Could you? I'm not sure if you can mention any customers by name, but is there any way that you could provide sort of not a case study, but an example of how one of your smaller customers is using your technology to being successful, and maybe an example of what one of the larger scale people, how they're using the instruments to their benefit?
Yeah, we have references. If anyone needed one, they'd be happy to. I usually always put people in touch with some of our clients if they wanted, like, oh, we want to just talk to someone who has been using your product and everything like that. So yeah, we've definitely put we always do make the introductions and connections like that for sure.
Okay, in generalities, what is the smallest operation that you've gone into?
So the smallest would be it would be a single 420 unit. So there you're that is very helpful in supporting a boutique manufacturer. So we've got a lot of those in Colorado, in Oregon, less so in the Southeast. The regions in the East tend to have larger installations, but certainly in the West, we've got a lot of smaller operations, and then they grow. I think one example I could cite is that they bought one of our systems out in Boulder. They proved it out, and then the next thing they did, they bought one of our larger systems, the 5015, and then at the beginning of this year, they bought, how many, Michelle? Was it 6?
6, yeah, 6 more.
6 more. Mm-hmm. So, once our clients become comfortable with the process, then they can, they can chart their growth and scale accordingly.
Have you experienced any supply chain disruption as a result of the pandemic?
Yes, but it hasn't really impacted us.
Okay.
We were concerned, with some of the electronics going into our hardware because we don't make our own circuit boards. Mm-hmm. We've got contractors for that, but thankfully we haven't really been impacted. So until then, we're still in good shape. And another thing too is that I know this impacted a lot of the people doing ethanol extraction. Our process, we do use solvents, but we don't use ethanol. So that we were able to dodge that bullet.
Okay. What initially got you guys involved with the cannabis industry?
That was Geoff.
That would be me. So, I'm in Southern California, and I've been working with a couple small growers even before California went legal. So I knew that there would be an opportunity with cannabis. And so as a result, I developed a rapport with a few small growers, and then just doing some garage style R&D, we started working on new applications. And I think it was 5 years ago, Michelle? Was that the first cannabis science conference that we did?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Almost 4 or 5. Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool. Talking about the garage style R&D. But when I talk to some of the manufacturers of more complicated machinery, they said that they sometimes have issues working with an industry that is used to that tinkerer, special recipe, garage style R&D, messing with the machine that can't, that doesn't have a lot of room for error. Is that something that you guys run into with your machines, where people are trying to use them inappropriately, I guess?
Why don't you take that, Michelle?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's the system's pretty robust. I mean, actually, I think pharma is pretty hardcore on the systems versus with the cannabis market, because with ours, you have it has the full, at least especially with the remediation, it's an SOP. I mean, it's the method's already there. You basically are pressing play, and then no, you don't have to touch it after that. So it's just a matter of what you're putting on the system. That's the most important part. It's if the cleaner the product, the higher the yield and everything like that. So just as long as they are following, doing some good steps prior to loading it on the system and everything like that. So, but yeah, as far as robustness, it's everything's like the stainless steel HPLC pump, so it's pretty robust, and then we everything's like all the fluidics are external, so it's very easy to we actually have a whole troubleshooting guide. If anything happens, like this is what you do, and you can call us, or if you have any troubles. But yeah, we have everything's external and very easy to maintain. They can do it themselves, or if they need help, we can help them.
What brought you to the industry, Michelle?
Me? So I've been in the industry about 12 years now. I've been working with the pharma industry for about 12 years. And I was with a smaller company before. And then at the smaller company that was doing chromatography consumables, I had met Geoff. And then the smaller company had gone under because it was just a tiny little company. And then Geoff reached out to me like 3 months after and was like, hey, what are you doing? And kind of came on board, and the rest is history. So. Very
good. So you had said that you have, starting in 2021, a 3-year plan. What does the end of that 3-year plan look like, and what are your expectations for, say, the next 5?
Well, I'd have to say that we haven't gotten that far yet with the plan. With you.
Gotcha.
So it's, and this was really born out of a new appointment within our organization. So we have a new CEO, and he actually comes from both the pharmaceutical industry, and then for the last 5 years has been operating a analytical testing lab for cannabis up in Canada. So he has a wealth of knowledge in the Canadian cannabis market, and even globally as well. So with our combined knowledge, we felt it was really important that we basically double down on cannabis and invest appropriately to be sure that we're capturing enough of the market with our capabilities, and beyond that, if we need to add personnel.
Now that you're expanding, the industry is growing, do you miss the garage style R&D?
It still happens. It will continue. So we have a facility in New York now where we're going through licensing. We hope to have that ironed out in the next 6 months. But in the meantime, we work with our customers. And, for example, we've got Michelle's working with a group out on the East Coast. I'm working with a few out here on the West Coast for minor cannabinoid quantitation. We have a collaboration with UC Berkeley to pursue that end. They've got they're going to be publishing in the latter part of 2021 for a cancer treatment, and that involves the minor cannabinoid work that we're doing with them. And then we're also working with them on other applications that they want to pursue. A lot of these, I can't really go into it because they're proprietary to the customer, but it's the garage aspect, the garage R&D aspect, just I don't see it ever going away. And the main reason being is that the plant is so complex. There's so many. I don't know what's the last count. Over 200 cannabinoids that are in the plant. So there's so much opportunity for continued R&D that I don't see that ever going away. And I would miss it, quite frankly.
Okay.
I enjoy that. We both do.
What was your response to the House vote on Friday?
Let's see what happens in the Senate.
True.
I think it's definitely a step in the right direction. We're assuming that there will be some movement next year, whether that be a rescheduling and or more movement towards full legalization. We see it as inevitable. It's just a matter of time.
Okay. It was actually one of the things I like to talk about is election nights. How it was like a tale of two election nights where there was like stress and anxiety and apprehension. And then everyone else in the cannabis industry was just like, we're killing it.
Finally.
Yeah. So I guess, what would you like the Cannabis Equipment News readers, listeners, viewers, to know about your company? Where should they start?
So if they're looking for, if they're either growing their lab or just starting their lab, if they're already doing their own, if they're doing extraction and they're doing their distillation and now they're, they need something to either remediate, to do THC remediation, or if they're, looking for solutions for minor cannabinoids, or, basically, we will be able to support them, either small or large scale, depending on what they're really looking to do. So we just have, a lot of offerings to help them out and, depending on what their goal is for their business. Excellent.
Well, thank you both very much for taking the time today. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having us. It's great.
Thank you.
Well, thanks again, Geoff and Michelle. For Cannabis Equipment News, I'm David Manti, and we'll see you next week.